Who's sitting by Andy? It's 5:35. I call the meeting to order. If you could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Looks like we all got inside just in time. Rain coming down. We'll go nothing under proclamation, so we'll go straight to public comments, petitions, and memorials, and listen to Richard Miners for the housing proposal. And Hernan.
Right to the celebration.
Well, go ahead.
Okay, so we all know Hernan Franklin. I was from BB Brothers Construction. My name is Rich Miners. I grew up here. You knew my aunt quite well, Betty Greenbach. So Hernan and I, he's newer to Hiawatha. I'm returning after almost 50 years away. And I've noticed a drastic decline in the town. The Main Street still looks the same. There's not as many businesses due to Walmart. But the main thing I've noticed is we have a lot of places where people don't live anymore, where there used to be houses. And I don't see very many new houses going up outside of the great big expensive ones that the vast majority of people who live in this town or did live in this town no longer can afford. And what Hernan and I propose, after long consideration, we thought about possibly, may I approach? Sure. About putting up something like this over on 900 block of Kickapoo. But after crunching all the numbers and listening to the train go by at 2 o'clock in the morning, we realized that nobody in their right mind would want to pay what it would cost to actually build something that close to the tracks. However, you do have a perfectly good trailer park there. And I know the city's stance on trailers in town, and I agree with 90% of it. You don't want to go plopping a trailer down right up here across from the hospital just because there's a vacant lot, and that would be the most economical thing to do. You really want a house there. That's for public viewage. But I believe that there's wiggle room for a plot that already is set up as a trailer park to have trailers put back on it for the lowest economic impact on people, to get people into housing that's more affordable for them. Because the last time I checked, the project that was proposed out here by the ballparks is not realistic for the vast majority of people that I rent to. And I've rented to sheriff's deputies and stuff like that. So I mean, they're not going and renting at that kind of a price point. So what we're wanting to do is, and Hernan has already located people who can bring in the trailers, and we can sell these to the people. The trailer park would actually be managed and run. They would have to pay a small monthly fee to keep the grounds clean and everything done. And we feel this would be actually an asset to the community, because it would allow people to move in here that would be the ones who would be working at places like Wildy's, at Fairview Mills, and Walmart, McDonald's, and stuff like that. Because we do not have enough low-income housing in this town at all. And I rent to a lot of them. He rents to a bunch of them. And there's just not enough housing in this town anymore. And we've torn down a fair amount of the stuff that was really cheap. Of course, most of it deserved to be torn down. Nobody had taken care of it. So we're asking for the city to change their position on trailers to allow for trailers in designated trailer parks that have to be managed and have to be maintained. And not to allow them though to post on just any vacant lot. That's what I'm saying. You have any questions?
Where are you proposing this again? At
The 900 block of Kickapoo over there with the
where Starbucks is?
the Star Park and the Second Baptist Church. It's already set up as a trailer park. You've already got the hookups, the sewer, the water there.
And this is what it would look like if you put one on. I mean,
Right, those are what we're looking.
That's what you wanted.
Because economically, even though that's the tiniest houses we could find at 16 feet width,
Mhm.
they were gonna have to sell for at least $150,000. And who would want to spend $150,000 to hear the trains rumbling by at all hours of the night, blowing their horn, when they can go over to First Street up here and buy something for $98,000? It's older, good house. I mean, I lived in Hiawatha and my mother made some bad choices. And we ended up in one of those trailers up on the north end, so I can speak for the longevity of that trailer is still there. And I was 12 years old back then, and I'm 64 now. The trailers, if maintained, can last a goodly long time. But if we don't do something to turn around the blight of housing in this town, eventually they're gonna be plowing this whole thing over as a cornfield, and you're gonna have a nice city hall and the county can see. But you won't have many houses in it. Each one that burns down is one less that we have. And how many have we lost in the last couple of years alone? Those aren't houses for people to live in anymore. There's definitely nothing there for the poor.
You said the 900 block of Kickapoo right next to,
Star Park.
okay, I'm familiar with Star Park.
Over there.
Okay,
That other side used to be a trailer park on the pipeline, days of the pipelines. And it's still set up with the power stands, the water stands and the sewer.
so we're talking the north side of Star Park.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, because there used to be a trailer park in I think the 1000 block of Iowa. There were several.
Right across from Wildy Tool, there used to be one. And there used to be one over in the Flairfield area that I think
Mhm.
Terry Horner or Billy Beers ran. I forget which one it was now, way back in the day.
Mhm.
But I mean, at one time we had a lot of trailers in town.
Mhm.
And I agree, half of the ones in the middle of town are eyesore. I live across the street from one. The mayor goes by my house every day. Across the street is a trailer. It's grandfathered in. They take good care of it. They maintain it. It looks nice. A couple of blocks away, there's an old trailer down there that literally looks like it's gonna fall in on its basement. Just never been maintained.
Mhm. And so what kind of rent are you gonna charge for something like this?
Well, that is something that we didn't figure out.
We haven't
The
figured exactly out.
The idea of looking sending a proposal, that's, the idea is to investing in the city, but at the same time, need to be a win-win for
Mhm.
everybody.
Mhm.
He bringing that spot there, which is okay, and he bringing, those houses, but I say, why the people will decide to pay this amount when they can, buy something else from different spot. And I'm willing to start to building new houses in town, so we got a couple lots, but I figured, I thought, that spot can be really, really nice if we have a trailer. I don't know, but we didn't figure out numbers yet. We figured out how much it's gonna cost
Mhm.
those houses and how much we can sell those houses. But realistic, I don't think that's gonna be a good deal, even for us, I will say. At the end of the day, we will have a lot of money to invest in there and it's gonna be hard to sell those houses. I will say.
How many trailers are you looking at trying
There's
to
8
place?
spots down there, so that's
Okay.
probably what we'd be looking at is the 8.
Okay.
Bring in new trailers or used ones?
New trailers, so.
New trailers will you bring in, however, if somebody wanted to bring in a trailer, you gotta remember, for a trailer to be moved, it has to be a certain number, it can't be over a certain number of years and it has to be roadwood.
Right.
It means it's in good shape.
Yeah.
And we would be more than willing to rent to people that bring in a nice enough trailer that it could go on the lot, and the city would be able to set whatever sort of standards they wanted to have. You know, what size, how many bedrooms, the age, condition of it and things like that. I mean, we don't anticipate this being out there weighing it on our own and just creating some little sub-city within the city. No, this is your trailer park too. I mean, you're gonna be getting taxes off of it. Right now, all you're doing is mowing lawn for it. And you're not getting any tax revenue off of it. So although this wouldn't be the greatest of all solutions under the planet, nobody's gonna build the Taj Mahal over there. And the city's input into this, you have the property.
Mhm.
So that would be your financial pony end to the thing. The rest would be up to us.
Maybe you're wanting us to give you the property?
Not necessarily, just whatever we have to pay, for the property, we are not asking even, for free. But I just want to see, that's allowed to building something there, because with the city regulation, we're looking, city work with us too, and try to work all together in the same page to bring more people to the town and more properties to the town. So that's what it is.
Is this something we could do like a long-term lease on?
Yes, if you could do a long-term lease on these, I mean, let's still look at it, how is it, I mean, what's your intent?
They would pay a monthly, or they could pay an annual rent for their spot.
Well, I was thinking, don't get me wrong, Richard, on my end, I was thinking something different, because, sorry, so I was thinking to bring new trailers. And then to rent the trailers, okay? But if people who live in the trailer, they want the trailer, they can buy it from us. So that's what I was thinking too.
Right.
You have to rent a home? Yeah, they can be like that. It's basically to help the community, to giving options, to buy. I know it's not a house, it's a trailer, but they have that choice there. If they don't want to buy it, they can still rent the trailer for us.
Right.
So we can buy the 8 trailers, put it there, and see what's going on there. So that's what I was thinking too. So I was not seeing just as a trailer park, basically. I was thinking, to set up everything and see what happened. I don't know.
So Brad, that property is just city property, it's not in the land bank, anything like that?
That's correct. That's just city property at this time.
Good.
The only part you don't own is the far eastern side, which belongs to some lady that I don't know her name off the top of my head. That's just the end cap of the block there. There's nothing on it. There's not even a service set up for it. It's just a vacant lot. And it's a narrow one too.
And I guess if we put the old trailer, it's gonna be new, it's gonna be a long term, it's gonna stay, in good shape there. I'm thinking, I don't know.
Fred, do you have any idea what kind of condition the services are on those lots now? It's been there quite a long time. Are the sewers tied into the city sewer, or does that go to a tank?
The sewers are tied into the city's sewers. As far as I know, all the water services are still in good shape there. I think all the services there are in fairly good shape as far as I know. We built that RV park a little bit different than we built the one on First Street. It was meant to be a little more permanent, so we took a little more care when we built it. So it's in far better shape than the other one was.
There pads to park on, or
What's that?
are there concrete pads to park on, or is there?
No concrete pads. It was just rock when it was built.
We were thinking we can go and put in gravel pads and possibly put in carports back there, because I've seen that up in Beatrice, Nebraska, where somebody did something similar to that. And they just put in a carport behind each one of them. Then they parked off of the alley.
Right.
So then what's the next step? I mean, we're not saying yes or no, obviously, tonight. I mean, this is just baby, at the very beginning. So what's the next step?
I believe that we would have to look at seeing what, the city would want for the land. I believe that, we had talked about a few different options that we have with the city for, how to deal with the land purchase or whatever we want to do there. We would have to look at the ordinances and probably change that ordinance that we do have in place. Or the zoning ordinance that prohibits trailers right now. But if we wanted to do some kind of a limited trailer park in designated areas, I mean, that is something those are the next steps here.
And then obviously the two of you need to come back with more information. I mean, I'd be curious to see what these trailers are even gonna look like.
And we can design it, I can design whatever how it's gonna look like, but that's just not a problem. It's something back to you guys. Yeah.
Mhm.
Whatever you need from us, just let us know and we will work together, I guess. And that's it says yes, it says yes, it says not, it's not. So, yeah.
So, but
I'd like
I,
to see the town grow back. I'd like to see some more people there.
Yeah.
The high school's got half the kids we did when we graduated. It's almost pathetic. We got that big, beautiful building over there and it's like a bunch of BBs rattling around in a tin can. It's almost empty half the time, it seems, compared to what it was back in '79.
so Brad, I guess you would just kind of be working with them. I mean,
Yes, I will continue to work with you and continue to be in contact with me and we'll work together and see what we can get done.
This is more than we could ask for. I mean, at least it's something in motion.
yeah, and I said, I'm not saying yes or no. I don't think anybody is. It's just that we need to, I mean, I appreciate the desire to build and to bring more people to town. Obviously, that's a great idea.
I'm all for
I agree with that.
Mhm.
affordable housing, without a doubt. But currently, the city ordinance that we have now prohibits it.
That's correct. So the current city ordinance that we have right now does prohibit trailers in town, inside city limits. Trailers that already existed inside were grandfathered in, but it prohibits new trailers in town.
Really?
It
When
does.
was that put into effect? Do you know off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I'd have to look at that and see when that ordinance was put into effect, but
There's a state law on that, so.
okay.
And I can understand why, because some of the trailers in town, like you said, are not,
Disgusting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm also like,
Vermin and dead bugs. Do something.
Yeah. well, I also like the idea that you're wanting to build houses as well.
And I wish that law being different.
Yeah. If that's so long, it'd be a lot easier to put houses in. It's- We do have other ideas. This is just the low hanging fruit. We can pull this off. Then there's other places we can start thinking about.
Yeah, I guess Howard, well, I love Howard, I guess, has been really friendly with us and,
Mhm.
my wife and I we want to invest in a little bit, here, there, but at the same time, I say, it's investment, so. So we need to focus where we are, which spot we're gonna invest in,
Right.
because the money is really tight,
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
All right. Thank you.
You, okay.
Let's go.
I got it right.
Okay, the consent agenda. Brad, is there anything you need to elaborate on?
I would like to add for the Jadwin construction invoice in the amount of $8,277.15 that we pay that contingent on us receiving the paperwork that goes along with those meters being replaced. But I would like to have that go ahead and have that approved tonight. That way, when they give us that paperwork, they could have their check.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda and to stipulate on item F, the Jadwin construction invoice, that amount is contingent upon them submitting their paperwork for the meters that were installed during that period.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as amended and presented. Any further discussion? Not, Don?
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0. Nothing under old business, so we'll move into new business. Under number 1, tractor payoff. So Donald?
Oh, good evening, everyone. On the mower tractor payoff, as I conducted conversation with appropriate staff, I am comfortable recommending that we exercise the payoff option of the Case tractor and loader in the amount of $43,418.02.
Okay.
Any questions on?
If not, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the payoff for the Case tractor and loader in the amount of $43,418.02.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to pay off the mowing tractor at an amount of $43,418.02. Any further discussion? If not, Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Thank you, Dominic. Moving on to the public comment discussion. Brad?
Yeah, so I was asked to put the, how we currently handle the public comment discussion is we require citizens to come in the Wednesday before the meeting and fill out a form stating, what they want to come and approach the commission about. The main reason I believe that this was done was to give us a little bit of time to research what they may be wanting to discuss. That way we could give answers that night. However, I think there's some desire among some citizens and commissioners to change the method of how public comment is conducted. I think at some point in the past, we would allow for public comment, as people came in, you could sign in if people wanted to comment. I believe there was some desire for that. And so I just wanted to get this on the agenda as I was asked to and open this up to discussion and see if there's any desire to change our policy that we have in place now. So I'll put it up to discussion.
I'd just say I think that it's important for us to give our residents a opportunity to speak. I've had this complaint several times, and 3 minutes is not a whole lot of time to begin with. And I know several times before when we had this still, and again, most of the other boards had this already. If you're not prepared to answer the question, it's not out of the realm to just say thank you and we'll have to get back with you at a later date. But I think that it's important to give residents the opportunity to be able to show up to a meeting and say something that's on their mind.
I agree with that.
I still like the idea that residents need to come in, so it's not an aha gotcha type moment. It also teaches the residents to kind of go through the chain of command where instead of, they can always talk to commissioners. I'm not saying they can't, but when there's concerns, it needs to go to City Hall, it needs to go to Brad, so he has a chance to address it. And then if they don't get the answer they like, then that's the next step is to come in front of the commission. But I say I really like the idea that Brad then has the opportunity to research, know what's the concerns, and then be able to give reasonable feedback. So, it's not a hill I'm going to die on by any means, but I'm still content with the way that it is.
I'm content with the way it is, but I don't think 3 minutes is long enough.
And when somebody's speaking, if you want them to have more time, any commissioner can give them more time to speak.
In the 3 minutes.
Yes. That's kind of a nice thing to have in place just in case. I haven't ever seen it here, but I've seen it in other meetings where sometimes people come in a little bit unreasonable. I'm not being negative, but the 3 minutes is a nice, but for instance, they just came in and spoke and we let them speak way past 3. So.
Well, I guess I like knowing ahead of time what we're going to be talking about too, so I'm okay with the way we have it. I don't think this applies to public hearings where anybody can, once the public hearing's open, anyone can speak. Is that correct?
Anything further?
Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion, just saying that we would, remove the requirement to sign in 3 days before, and that anybody could, show up to a meeting and practice their amendment right to be able to speak freely to the commission.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to remove the time for public comment portion of commission meetings or something like that. Any further discussion? If not, Don?
Favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay. Motion does not pass with a vote of 2 to 3. Moving to option to number 3, 2026 budget discussion.
The beautiful budget.
It'll be quick, right? We're just gonna fly right through it.
We are going to. Consider it so I can share my screen.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to share what I would like to discuss tonight with the city budget is one of the last real pieces that we have to go down before I can, and what I'd like to do tonight is really kind of run some of these numbers in real time to see how this does affect the bottom line as far as our capital improvement plan goes. And so I'm going to share the screen that I have with the capital improvement plan. I'm going to try to zoom in as much as possible here. Let's see. So everybody can see this. And I do have department heads here tonight to help with this discussion as well. Let's see.
Once again, we need a bigger TV.
We do need a bigger TV, mate. That is a definite something that we need. So what I would like to do, I'd like to just go ahead and start from the beginning, especially with the funds that really do affect that mill levy rate. And so I'd like to start with the administration. And so I'm going to, I guess I try to zoom in a little bit here. People will see. Oops. Let's go to it. This does help at least a little bit. So I'm going to come up to start at the beginning. I don't have the values filled in for how the revenues are going to be coming into this because we haven't decided that portion yet. And so what I do have as far as the administration goes for the capital improvement plan is I have the 77,000, which was spent this year for the housing engineering. And right now I have 15,400 per year coming out for, I believe, 4 years, 5 years on that, in order to refund that money back into the capital improvement plan. The big item that I do have here is $125,000. That is for administrative software. That is software that's used across all, city departments. That's just more than administration. This is also for the police department. This would also be for Parks and Rec. This is across many different departments. And so what I have here is a big number, $125,000. And you'll notice that I have $25,000 each after that. And the reason it was $100,000, the reason I upped it a little bit is because we did get a quote from a company that we were looking at. Their quote was very expensive. It was right around $160,000. Now, I do believe that some of what we had in there, what we asked from them is we asked for everything that they could possibly give us because we want their top number. And what we want to do is see what we need for ourselves. We do have a demonstration with this company. They're going to be coming in here in about 2 weeks to come in and look and see, what we have as far what we need. We compare that down. I don't believe that we're gonna spend 160,000. I believe it's gonna be more than 125,000. Mark, and that's why I have that there. But I have that there as a big number because that would be a very big hit to any one time to the taxpayers. And so the reason I have $25,000 after that, I'm proposing that we spend 125,000 originally, and then help refund that back into. I only have about 25,000 actually coming out of that fund for the property tax purposes. And that's just to try to keep that impact as low as possible. That way we're not trying to hit somebody, because right now that'd be almost a 3 mil increase. Above that, actually, 3.5 to 4 mil increase just for the administration's software. That's a very big hit. I'd rather not try to do that all at once. I'd rather try to spread that out over a period of time. And so that's why it looks the way it does after that. I'd like to have Dawn and Jane kind of explain some of the challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis. I know they face it every day as far as administrative software goes. And so I'll kind of turn the floor over to them, have them explain really quickly, what they face on a day-to-day basis.
So for instance, we had a utility account that was charged. We needed to get that back off of there. There was an issue. We put in a ticket, a support ticket to our current software. We waited at least 3 weeks, and Jane finally figured out how to fix it. And it's not just us, it's across the state. I have them all. I have emails saved from everybody that has this company. And sad thing is, we've been with this company since the start of the company. But getting help has put us way behind the 8 ball. They tried to roll out a new update. I can tell you 2 towns relatively close to us, very close to us, who have went with their new software, and are currently looking for new software. Well, one's currently looking, the other has changed. It's caused a lot of issues. I mean, that's why we're behind on our audit. For one, when we closed the street sales tax, they helped us to create a new bank. At the same time we closed that, they deposited it. I know this probably is all Greek to you, but they deposited it into our public funds investment account that we created, and it should not have been, but it hit general ledger, and they do not know how to take it back out of there.
We pay them a yearly fee for software.
We do pay them $39,000 annually for now. What it cost, how long have you guys had it? 96?
Yes.
96 when G-Works was implemented, and so I've just upgraded over the years. I couldn't tell you how much you guys paid in 96, but it's a struggle. It really is a huge struggle for anything if we have an issue. I know when I came and we asked them to actually come on site and give us training, they just told us go to the knowledge base.
Well, I'm concerned if they haven't even done the update they're supposed to have done, what, a year ago? 2 years ago?
And that falls, I mean, it does fall partly on me, because the CPA, we had Brian Knipe that came in, he created a crosswalk so we could clean up some of those chart of accounts, because we had over
6,000
chart of accounts and on our chart of accounts. And so he created a crosswalk to clean some of them up. And when I presented that to them, that we wanted to use this crosswalk, they wanted to charge us additional funds to create that crosswalk. And I said, then show me how to do it, because I'll come in on a weekend and do it. We can't afford any more than $39,000 that you're already charging us annually. It's a tedious job, but between Brad and Jane and I, we could have gotten it done. They've never got back, and I've asked them twice now for that.
So we're paying them and they're not supporting us.
Oh, you get support, just takes a hot minute, yeah. I do have emails from, on the listserv for the city clerks. And I actually sent some of that to them and told them we were concerned about going live with their cloud option because it's not working. There's issues. There's kinks, as with any new software, there's kinks, but we were supposed to go live a year ago.
And do you know any cities that are on the software that you want to switch to?
Well, it's got to be a big process because that's our.
Oh, that's true.
That is our purchasing policy. The one we reached out to first is Tyler Technologies, who's been around for years and years and years. Reached out to them. There's another one that sent me an email. Some people in Kansas have went with them, and I plan to reach out to them. Other than that, I haven't looked any farther. We're just starting the process, There was one other one I looked at. However, I don't know that they'd be a good fit for us. Other than that, no, I have not went any farther yet because it's kind of senseless to go any farther unless we have the blessing.
So you'd purchase the software and then you'd still have to continue to pay an annual
You do.
fee
With any
what you
software.
do. Okay.
This software has our utility billing stuff all on it too. Is that
Correct.
all part of the package?
The one we looked at, like Brad said, we did the whole entire suite. I'm like, if we could have our perfect package, this is what we'd want, and we knew we weren't going to get it, but it gave us what the whole package would be. And there's one that we believe, we know, we definitely can live without. So of that 161,000, is it 29?
I think it's right around 30,000, yeah.
Around 30,000, we're like, no. Would it be nice? Yes. Is it feasible? No.
Is it upgradable?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, you can add on. So even our current software is like modules. So we have utility billing and we have payroll. And of course, we're going to need bank rec and we're going to need payroll and we're going to need accounts payable. And we're going to need general ledger and receipt management. I mean, there's ones that we just absolutely need to have. But then there's also add on like code enforcement and things like that, fixed assets, inventory. You can add those on. The module for residents to make their own accounts, to watch their own water. But that's one of them. That's just too expensive at this time.
But in the future, if we wanted to add.
Absolutely.
They do websites too. I know we just changed over to a different website.
I didn't ask them. I know when I was at the county, we had our timekeeping system was through Tyler Technologies. I don't think we had a problem, not that I can remember with them. But I don't know that they do websites at all.
Part of the idea of this is really we want a little bit tighter budgetary control right now than what we would like to have department heads able to access what they're spending in real time to see, what they have coming in, what they have going out. Right now, what I do, I send out a monthly report to them, their budget report every month. And that tells them kind of where they're at in their budget. But, it would be nice for all department heads to be able to access that themselves. That way, it just, in my opinion, it gives everybody a little bit more power. Everybody understands this budget a little bit better. And so instead of me or Don or even Jane having to be the ones that send out these reports, it really empowers the employees to have a little bit more of that budgetary control. I feel like the more people that we have understanding these things, the better off that we are as an organization. But I can't send those out. That's not what I'm saying. I like the idea of giving our department heads a little bit more, letting them see those numbers and is all.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, but that is just part of it. If we go to this, to a new software, they would all have the access
Yes,
to get that
that's correct.
versus now not everybody has a access to all of that. To our programs, how's that? Because we're not on a cloud right now at all.
And of course, when we're talking about changing administrative software, this is something that we would want to do, once every 3 decades. We don't want to do this very often. This is really, it would be great. It would be best just to do this once and never do it again. And so really it's going to be, we want to get this right. If we do this, we want to have that request for a proposal and then really evaluate these proposals based off of what we think is best for the future of the city. And so, that's what we would be looking at if something like this were to be approved for the CIP. That's kind of how we would evaluate that process. But, this is, like I said, not something that you want to do very often. This is hopefully the last time, if it's approved, that we ever do it. So that's kind of our goal anyway.
And it'll be a big process. Like we do want to clean up the chart of accounts. 6,000 accounts is just absurd. It is. It's just absurd. I mean, it's that's where you have issues when you're trying to figure out, oh, I'm missing 15 cents. Where is it? So it would be a process, definitely a long process for us.
We've had this system since 1996.
G-Works. I believe it's 1996 is what it believes. Since their induction,
I definitely don't like the fact that they're not giving you any support.
It is a struggle, and I'll share those emails from the listserv about. I mean, not just us. We're not the only ones. If we were,
Especially since we pay for it.
yeah,
Exactly.
And it's not cheap, I'm sure.
No, it's $39,000 a year, and so I will share those with you. I mean, we're not the only ones, so it's not something we're asking for just to get.
Exactly.
And I think it would streamline if we could have, it would streamline everything and it would make it a lot more accessible and efficient all the way around.
And as much work as you put into trying to get things back in order, it would be nice to have the software to match. I mean, and you're not going to just, like you said, you're not doing it just because you want it, because it is going to be a process. So,
Yes.
and it's not going to get any cheaper.
No. Am I done?
Yeah, go sit down. You're done.
Thank you.
The other item that they have in their general government would just be technology upgrades. This is just computers. This is kind of us building up a little capital reserve for when it does come time to change our server. I know that's something that we need to be doing a little more often than what we did this last time, but we did just have our server replaced last year. So that does not need to be done this next year. That's just $5,000 each year. That's a continuing cost. And really what I would like to see here, we're not going to need, that represents probably 4 computers a year, but that's citywide. And so whenever we do these technology upgrades, this is more of a citywide type of a fund. So, but that's what that is of the CIP as far as that goes. Do you have any questions on anything as far as general government goes? Yeah, go
I
ahead.
had an idea that came to me the other day about our city code. I've been asking since Mike was here to get the codification done on that.
Yes.
Every administrator's been very busy. I'm not picking on anybody, but Can we hire somebody to do that? And if so, can that go on the budget?
We had actually talked about getting some part-time help, and even, I think it was suggested to us that we contact Highland Community College,
Okay,
and they have interns that are available to do something like this. It really is as simple as just typing and everything like that.
yeah, I know it's involved process, but
But it's a process that I believe that we can get done in-house for a very, very relatively inexpensive cost.
okay,
Not something that I think that we really need to budget for here. I know Don and I have been in conversation about this. Even here, I think it was the last conversation we had was probably 2 weeks ago, maybe. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about having seeing if some of the summer help that was in college wanted to stay on a little bit. And then we could help us with that codification.
okay, that's a good idea. Well, I'm just concerned when you go to our website and you look at the city code, I don't think it's been updated since probably 2007 by the dates that are on there. And I just think everybody ought to be able to find out what the latest version of that is. And I know it's on the work list to get done, but it's been kicked down the road for as long as I've been on the commission. So yeah, that sounds like a good idea. If you can get that worked out, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. If it's online, it needs to be accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
I don't know how our code enforcement, do they have a markup copy to go by or?
We do. We have a couple of marked up copies within City Hall itself that we go by
Yeah,
that are current, but it just needs to be current on the website and then kept current after, as things are, as it's going as well.
okay.
I believe we can move on to the police department within the general fund now. I'll have Mickey come up and kind of go over, he has a nice proposal here, so I'll have him explain all this.
That had us put together 26 through 2023 for things that we might be needing in the upcoming years. And the main area I have is the patrol vehicles, which is an obvious expense that we have every 2 or 3 years at least. 2026, I was proposing we get a new patrol vehicle and then retire out 2 older patrol vehicles, which would reduce our total fleet numbers by 1, because I'm trying to improve the average age and average mileage of the fleet. And I think 2 years ago we had 9, so we started progressing downward because we've had too many. Cost us money to insure them and the maintenance costs on the vehicles. The other item I had in 2026 was security cameras and the interview room camera. They're aged. The interview room camera has always been kind of hit and miss since we've had it. It's been a good number of years, at least 5 to 8 years, I think, that we got that put in. And then onward, I was looking at 2027, a patrol vehicle and rotating out vehicle again. The rotation, I'm trying to rotate out. We have 2 Dodge patrol cars. I want to get them rotated out. They have less mileage than the truck I drive and the SUV that Dugan drives. But those 2 vehicles that we operate will have minimal mileage on them of year usage. So the other 2 are day-to-day patrol vehicles, and they're both around 100,000 miles. One's just over and one's just under. So I was going to rotate those out on 2026, but 2027, rotate out another vehicle, whether it be my truck. It might be my truck. It's got quite a bit of mileage on it. It's nice to have it around for the winter. The Durangos wouldn't get around last winter during that snowstorm, but my truck would. And onward, I got 2028. I'm looking at body cameras and in-car cameras. Our vendor is doing what the vendors do. They're rotating out
Oh, you have to upgrade and buy a whole new system and a whole new proprietary software, and they're expensive. So we've shopped around. I've got all kinds of bids from 5 to 8 different vendors to get an idea of what we're looking at down the road. That's something I would definitely look at getting grant money for, finding some grant funding for if I can. We've done that in the past. 2029, our exterior doors are aged. Sometimes the back door has trouble shutting depending on the weather. So we got to look at those. The door locks we have are aged, and another vendor thing, they're not serviceable anymore. You have to buy new systems. We're getting by with what we have, but at some point in time in the future, they're going to need replaced. The garage doors and the openers by 2029, they're going to be quite aged, and we need to project out that we might need to replace those. And then I skipped the patrol vehicle for those 2 years and looked at 2030 for another patrol vehicle, and then rotate out probably the Tahoe or my truck, whichever one we still have. That'll probably be the Tahoe. But we're just looking at what we need, what we might need down the road, and that's what we're trying to project out with what we got here. Does anyone have any questions on any of that?
I always appreciate your ability to find grant money. Pay for stuff.
It's very helpful, thanks. It's very helpful.
Nice and detailed.
AI makes you really smart nowadays.
Any other questions for the chief?
No,
Well, I think he's got everything spelled out very well.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next would be fire department. I'll let Patrick come up if he would like to speak at all. I have had some conversations with Patrick about what their needs can be coming up into the future, equipment needs, things like this. The fire department is always very conscientious of the budget. They do a really good job maintaining their equipment that they do have. You know, fire department does a great job. They hadn't asked for actually anything on the CIP. What I've done is, and what I'd like to do here is I have replaced the fire station, which the current fire station, you know, this is something that we talked about last year. I know we did do some work. They did some work to the old gas station that was adjacent to the fire station, made it a lot more. I believe it's a lot better than it was. It's doesn't lose heat like it did. A lot of good improvements there. But I leave that on a 5-year out type of a thing. And that's just if we come over here, I have that 5 years out at $1,250,000. Now, that number does not represent something that I can actually budget for at any one time, but that is something that I want to keep in the back of our mind and something I want to continue to work towards. I'll turn it over to Patrick from here.
One of the main reasons for a new fire station or new addition, however you want to put it, up for discussion on anything. We do have an aged tanker that will be ending its lifespan. We've put a lot of money into it this year. We've put money into it the years past. And that style of tanker, they don't make that same length anymore. And to make it more efficient for us, we would actually want to go to a larger tank. Current tank on is 2,800 gallons. It'd be beneficial for Padonia, Hiawatha Township, the Sac and Fox, all the areas that we provide service to have an additional. They make them in 3,000 gallon tanks now. They also operate with a 1250 pump on it, so you can use it and do anything that the other trucks do. But they don't make them that size that would fit in that gas station. It's actually about 4 feet longer, so that's where the building design comes into play. Plus there's 3 trucks over there now. The 2 tankers that sit over there, there's no room.
to get between. So, excuse me. So that's the reasoning for the fire station. And the way we have, with the new truck that we just got, this year, it's made our fire station even smaller, so. And you guys do a great job of funding us, we were able to get, at least 3 sets of bunker gear a year, which we have added a lot of firemen, so probably gonna be getting some more bunker gear before the year's over with, so. I think we're, after tonight, that puts us up to 18 or 19 firemen now.
It's great.
Are there any grants for like helping out with firehouses?
I believe that there are. I believe that there is money available for firehouses, especially when it comes to public safety. Usually there's a lot of times there's good money available for that. And that's why, like I said, this is something that I would really like to continue to work towards. We had some good discussions last year, kind of a good place to start, kind of give us a kind of realistic idea about what we're looking at as far as the fire station goes, as far as cost. And it gives us a goal. It gives us something to look to work towards, I guess is a good way to put it. But I would like to keep that on the capital improvement plan. That way it's always in my mind. That way I'm always working towards that goal.
And the plans that you had drawn up this last year, does that fit? I mean, would the new tanker truck fit in those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it would actually, go big or go home. Why would you make something the same size? I mean, it would actually accommodate the building that we had designed would actually accommodate an additional 2 different apparatus.
Okay.
Would, if we have a CIP fund and we, let's say, fully funded it and everything, we wouldn't be taking a bond out necessarily for the firehouse. Would it be possible for us to just put up a metal structure for you guys and not do a $1.2 million firehouse? I just don't know if we've thought about that type of avenue.
Well, I get your point, Mr. Shepherd, and absolutely, it's possible. I mean, you could probably get that done within probably $150,000 to a $300,000 range. Question is how long will a wood structure last?
Well, I wouldn't even say a wood structure. I would say just a nice big steel building.
So we did do the a building addition that would have been a steel building, and we ran into the problems with the current building being brick and the new addition being steel. They could not combine the two together. The building that we actually had them create was modeled off of Marysville, and that was it was on the upper end of 2 million for a steel building. And that was with some of the amenities that they didn't have, or we were not going to have some of the amenities that they had. There again, you're going through a whatever. What was that? What was that? Who was that? The consultants. Yeah, we were DG consultants. We were going through them to come up with the pricing. No, it was not sent out for bid by anybody. Whenever you get north of 2 million, it's not going to fit in there. So, so no, we didn't. And to answer your question, yes, I've seen where there are grants available for that. You have to continue to apply for them. I have enough time to be my job and fire chief and a husband and a dad, and sometimes, most of the time, grant writing doesn't fit in there. So, to answer your question there.
And that's definitely something that, I can help you with as far as those types of things go. I'm more than happy to do it. I know that we have some talented people around that also are pretty good at grant writing as well. And so, like I said, anytime that assistance is needed there, more than willing to help there.
And most of the time when I find out their grants are open, they're closed.
Yeah.
That's by the time I get around to it, that I find out they're already closed. And from the research that I've seen on them, most of them are 50-50. You can get into the 80-20s, but those are few and far between.
And I think it's a fair statement that Brian made. You know, there's multiple ways that we could look at a new fire station here. This is a kind of a placeholder number, is what I call this. This was done a few years back when we did the CIP for, like, say, South Wellfield improvements. There was a very large number in there, but it's really something that, you know, I want to keep on my mind, that something that we're still working towards. And so that's why you see a very, very large number in there. Obviously, that's very hard for us to say we're going to budget that, you know, out of 5 years. You know, that'd be, you know, it'd be almost $300,000 a year. You know, that's very, very expensive, but this is something that we still do want to be working towards.
And I would, you know, have had conversation with Brad, and I don't want to see a fire station, a new building or an addition be approved by the commission, funded by, you know, the community, and it be bidded out to some contractor out of Manhattan or Kansas City or Topeka. I personally would like to see the community, you know, we have how many builders in this town? You know, how many, I mean, have the money that's given here to stay here. That's just my own opinion on it. So I know those things are possible, but like the gentleman that stood up here before, you know, that's put everybody having a skin in the game. So make our community nice. So just my opinion. Anything else?
Think we're good?
You look like
Thank
you got
you.
a question. You got a statement. You don't got a question.
No, I've been through all this with you before. I agree with you. We need a new station. It's just how can we fund it?
We'll get creative.
Got to.
Thank you.
It's a lot of pancakes.
Wow.
Pancakes.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the Parks and Recreation Department. I'm going to come back to the beginning. And so what we have here with Parks and Recreation, we have the Parks Compact Tracker, which was this year. That was $35,231. I've taken that out over 5 years, just kind of an even number, $7,000 a year. That's just to reimburse that money back into that CIP fund that we've already spent. Drainage at Burning Park, I have that on there for this year. I'm not sure that's something that we're going to do this year. That's why I don't have that highlighted. A lot of what I have highlighted is what I have in there for that. Those numbers reflect our current, my current projections for the actual budget itself. So when we look at that line item budget that I presented last week, that's what those highlighted numbers reflect. And so you'll notice that parking lot lights at Bruning, I had money in there for that. That's now red. And that's because from what I have found out, from what was actually pointed out to me by staff, is that we have the poles for those. And all we need to order is the heads for the lights, and that we can put those back up. And so I believe that's something that we can get done. In fact, I've already ordered the heads for it. You know, we should be able to see that in 4 to 6 weeks.
Those poles aren't broken off?
The poles were broken off, but they were repaired.
Okay.
And so we have enough talented welders here at the city that they were able to repair those poles. And they believe that they're going to be just fine for the future. I agree with them. I trust them fully. And so I went ahead and ordered the heads for them. And so that's something that we can get done this year and not have to. I don't think it was a lot. I think I had $7,000 there, but $7,000 we don't have to spend. And so what we have left here for discussion is like the gym and lobby floor at the Fisher Center. And so this is going to be more. I'd say this is going to be the lobby floor of the Fisher Center. Would have been $23,000. The gym floor was what we had for $50,000. That wouldn't be till 2027. And so the lobby floor, what we're talking about here, is the entrance when you come in. This would be something along the lines of what you see in the bathrooms there at the Fisher Center. It's what Russia Flooring comes in and does. It's had epoxy coating. The flooring is really nice. It holds up really well. And so that's what I'd be talking about there. That's highlighted. That just reflects what I have in there preliminarily for, this next year. And that way I can kind of go through these numbers and show you. LED replacement for the ball fields. I don't have a firm price on that yet. I was ballparking just by, like I said, from a contractor, $30,000 a ball field. This would be for Bruning and Noble. And this is something that, as time goes on, this is something that will eventually be needed. These LED lights are something that's they're a lot more efficient. All lighting is going to LED eventually, but you can, as of right now, we do have most of the lights that are still operational. You can still buy the bulbs for them. And so that is still a possibility. And so that is just something that, we've been talking about it for a long time. That's about what I think that would cost. And so that's why I have that $30,000 a year in there. And then we have the key card entry. I also had key card entry for the police station in there. That was not on Mickey's proposal. I have key card entry here for the Fisher Center too, and that's $7,000. So that's what we're talking about with the highlighted portion of Parks and Rec. And so that total for this next year comes up to, out of the CIP, that is $67,000. I'd like to remind the commission about the $40,000 transfer to the pool that I had to take from water and put back towards Parks and Rec. And that's just because water next year is, that fund does, it's going to be tight in water. It's going to, in order for us to run that pool, we would have to take that money out of Parks and Rec next year. Because that really hits that, this would hit the property tax. We could do it out of general, but really it's the same thing. So either way that we do this year, it's going to hit that property tax. It has been taken out of general in the past as well, but if we're going to take it out of general, we might as well take it out of Parks and Rec. I mean, it hits a property tax either way. And so that's, like I said, I just like to remind everybody that we're going to have to move that transfer from water to Parks and Rec, at least for that 1 year. And so this is what we're discussing here tonight, and I'm open to any questions at this time.
Brad, is that tractor that's on there, is that the one we just bought?
That's the one we just bought, yes.
I thought the plan was to pull from all different departments and refund that CIP fund this year. Is what we talked about when we bought that tractor, I thought.
We could pull from water fund as well. I know that we do use that tractor, especially for mowing out of the water plant. We could also pull from we could pull out from water too. We could also pull from we use it for the cedar mostly after that. So you could pull you could probably justify pulling at least a little bit of that from the stormwater fund. Although I'd like to be careful with the stormwater fund if possible, just to put as much water towards stormwater as we can. But it's something that we could look at for sure.
When we voted to buy it, that was how we were paying for it. And so that's, I mean, when you vote to buy something and that's how we're paying for it, that's how we should pay for it.
Yeah, it's just a reimbursement back to the CIP that we're looking at here.
Yeah, but we're looking at taking the new property tax and reimbursing over the next several years to pay for that tractor versus paying for it right now, reimbursing right now like we were going to, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think that we have, definitely not in water this year. We don't have a lot of money in there to reimburse this year to do that. I believe that when I talked about that, I talked about making sure that we do reimburse those funds back into the CIP though.
And I guess the gymnasium floor in the auditorium section, have we looked into just resealing that instead of sanding down and totally redoing? I literally just did this to my back patio and it makes it look brand new and it's a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, no, and that's something that we can definitely look at. And that's why I don't have that down until 2027 on here for that portion of it. I think the gym, and I think the one we're talking about this next year with the 23,000 is just the lobby entrance itself to the Fisher Center. But I do agree that I think that just resealing it is definitely an option.
I had a question about that since we're talking about the gym. I think one time you mentioned about replacing the lights in there would put LED lights. Is that on anybody's radar or?
It's still on the radar as far as the replacement goes. I know that one of the problems that we have when we had our old bucket truck, we could pull it in there. When we bought the new one, it won't fit.
No.
And so it's just as simple as running a lift. That's not really too big of a deal to do that. It's relatively inexpensive to rent a lift. You know, that's something that we can do in house, and we can just do that out of our normal building maintenance fund. You know, but I think that'd be pretty simple to do. I know that they've done some in there, I believe, when Dan was here, but I think we talked about it last year when we tried to pull the lift in, the bucket truck in, it won't fit through the garage door. So we'll just have to rent a lift. It won't be too big of a deal to do that.
I got scaffolding you can use for free, so.
Okay.
And I had another question. At one time, Stacy wanted to rehab Star Park.
Yes.
The playground equipment is not safe anymore or compliant with whatever the rules are on. You know where that's at or?
I do not know where that's at. What I have here on the CIP is as far as what she's given me.
Okay.
And so I do not have that on here as of right now, but it's something that I definitely want to look into. I really want to look into as far as parks maintenance goes, is looking at our parks, looking at the type of equipment that we have. I noticed that at, like, say, the Kitty Corral, for example, I believe that the Kiwanis put up a kind of a shelter there. It needs some attention. Now we put up a pergola out at Crestview Park that needs some attention. And I believe just simple painting on our equipment that we do still have. I believe that the equipment itself is in good shape, but as long as we keep it spruced up and looking nice, keep the slides to where they're not marked up and everything like that. I think that just those simple type of maintenance things can be done, but definitely an upgrade for Star Park is needed. There's not a lot of equipment there now. A lot of the non-compliant equipment has been removed, but it doesn't leave hardly anything there.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot there at Star Park anymore. That's something that we can always look at in special parks and rec too. We do have some fund balance there that we can spend towards that. Replacement of that equipment, because that's our liquor tax that has to go towards playground equipment would be a great place for that. That's something that we can look at.
Okay, just asking.
Is it okay to wait another year for the gym floor? I thought we were having some significant issues with it before.
The significant issues that we have with the gym floor was really with the cracking that we're seeing down there.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we've done is we did have somebody come look at that. They didn't think that the cracking was necessarily a structural issue. We filled that up with some, I believe it was slick caulking. There was a little bit of that, but it kind of filled that up, resealed back over that part. And that's kind of alleviated some of that for the time being. So I do believe that it's something that we can wait another year on.
Okay.
I think we should also, I mean, I hate to say it, but it needs to be talked about is, you know, possibly the amount of parks that we have in town, um, maybe not having as many and concentrating on a couple, two or three. It's not, you can't just throw some tires in the ground and weld some pipe together and let kids play it on it anymore. And it comes at a huge cost for playground equipment and the product that you have to put on the ground. And so I think we need to look at maybe what the end goal is for that area over there. If maybe it is for housing or a playground. You know, if there was a trailer park over there, a park right there would probably be fantastic. But I think we need to start looking at what the long-term vision is for that area as well.
How many parks do we have in town?
We have Star Park, Crestview Park. We also have the Kitty Corral. You can add, you know, like Aquatic Center. Of course, we have the skate park as well.
City Lake.
City
Lake has some places.
City Lake has some park area out there.
And playground
In
equipment.
Vernon.
Can you hear me?
What'd you say, Brian?
Yeah, I was just saying playground equipment, you know, it's not $20,000. It can be over $100,000.
Oh yeah, sky's the limit on playground equipment, especially when you're getting into. I mean, the price can just go outrageous very, very quickly.
Especially if we make it so it's more
Yeah.
accessible to everybody.
Yep.
You know, we can always work on that. But you're right, that's not cheap.
Accessibility, especially when you're talking about accessible playgrounds and things like that. A lot of times there can be grant money out there for things like that too. So there is avenues that we could look for as far as accessibility goes as well. I think that's important that we look down that avenue and that we continue to work that way. But especially when you're talking about, you know, accessible parks, that's when we can start getting into grant opportunities for playground equipment as well. Okay, so I've been through really the two funds that are going in as far as the CIP goes, that are really going to affect our mill levy rate are going to be the general government, which contains police department, fire department, police department and fire department, and just the general government, the admin fund, and Parks and Rec. And so I would kind of like to have a little bit of a discussion on, you know, how this affects our property tax rate and kind of bring into focus what we're comfortable with spending next year. So I can bring a budget proposal back for the next meeting and really kind of dial those numbers in at that next meeting for our September 8th meeting. I'd like to just have a quick discussion. You know, I can really kind of crunch some numbers for you here and see where we're at in real time as far as what the increases are looking like here. You know, we can look at different projects and say, okay, well, you know, and just see where we're at. So I would like to open that up for a little discussion here before we move on to some of the other funds that really don't affect the mill levy rate quite as much. And so when we start talking about water and sewer and public works and streets, those really don't affect that mill levy rate quite as really at all. And so I want to focus first here, and then we can move on from there, if that's okay with everybody.
I think one thing that we just can't keep ignoring is the administrative software. I think that's something that
I was gonna say that too. I think that's important, probably at the top of the list.
I mean, it's not exciting for everybody in the city, but it's something that we need to be efficient and to do what we need to do. So that's what I would for sure like to see funded.
Okay.
I think that housing could come out of the, what do you call it, the surplus.
Yeah, so that could come out of that,
That we,
economic development tax for the industrial fund.
yeah,
I believe that is possible, yes.
so I like to see that get funded that way myself.
Okay.
I mean, as for the software, I do think that we need to rattle some cages and get some more support with the current software. I guess being honest, I just don't know enough about what's going on. It's kind of like the first thing I've heard of all that, and that is a very big expenditure that we're looking at for this budget. So I'd really like to hear more about that than just jumping into that right now.
I don't know how much more they could rattle the cages when you just flat out can't get a response. I mean, unless you drive down there wherever you're at and walk in their front door.
Sure to share all the information because I have been collecting. One comment was made to me, well, we're trying to fix the $800,000. We're on the phone quite fine, and the gentleman said I could spend all the with one city.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and when we reached out to get training, they don't offer it. It's up to you just to watch the little videos and go get their knowledge books. Frankly, I don't feel we're getting what we're getting. But
It says a little bit when you have two cities nearby, one's already changed and one's looking to change that. You know, but like I said, any information you can give us would be great, you know, so then can get a better picture of it. Yeah.
I'm welcome to sit with us, not as you're about. And see the struggles we were up in.
Yeah. What else are we looking at, Commission?
I would like to ask also, we always plan or budget for cars for the police department as well. So why are we adding that to CIP, I guess?
The whole the idea of CIP, there's two kind of aspects of CIP. Part of that is equipment replacement. I know that I've talked to Don, if this is something I was going to get to when we got to the public works portion of this. As you see in the police department, what we have here looks a little bit different from what Mickey had on his paper. What I'd really like to see is that we're bringing some kind of a stability to the budget process. Instead of budgeting 60,000 every, 2 or 3 years, I'd rather budget at least a little bit of an amount every year in order to say, okay, let's build up some money. The way the equipment replacement program goes, it looks a lot like our water tower maintenance program. And so we spend it's around $60,000 a year for our water tower maintenance program. A lot of times they're just coming, once a year, quick visual inspection. Really what that is we're building that money for when it's time to paint those towers again.
Yeah.
And so, because that's very, very expensive. And so I would like to see an equipment replacement program that somewhat mirrors that. And that it also brings stability to the budget to where we know that we're going to put a set amount of money into that equipment replacement program, which includes vehicles. This is going to go into where we go to the public works side of it. And also, we're going to be talking about those vehicles. We're going to be talking about the large pieces of equipment that we have that really needs to be, less often we need to replace that. But we just need to figure that out. This is something that I have Dominic working on right now. I have myself working on this right now to really come up with that, to really kind of dial that in. if we're just looking at, what we need to replace police vehicles, that's why I have in there what I have in there as far as our CIP goes. And so that's why it reflects the way it does. And it's just like, it really, like I said, that's what it's about for me, is just bringing the stability. That way we're not fluctuating up and down. I just really want to see just a really stable budget kind of environment. Because I know that in the past, we've run into some trouble with our major fluctuations up and down. And our budgets are tight enough now with our administrative costs, with personnel costs, that we just can't handle that like we once did.
I guess, I mean, like I said, we're already budgeting for police cars though. So are you just saying that we can't afford to pay for police cars out of our police budget anymore? Or are we, what's going to happen with the money that we're already putting into the budget to pay for police cars now? Are we going to cut the police budget that much and add it to CIP, or are we basically double dipping is what I'm asking?
So yeah, no, instead of replacing it out of the capital portion of the police budget, you take that money out of there and you put it into the CIP. And so it's just, you're not double, you're not budgeting for it twice, you're just budgeting for it the one time. You're just paying for it out of a different place.
And you're trying to levelize it every year to be roughly the same amount.
That's correct.
That's what you're trying to do.
Yes.
Do all of the patrol officers have a take-home vehicle?
No.
No?
Do they need one?
No. In my opinion, no. The previous administrator was trying to do that. That's why we wound up with so many vehicles. But we do not need to have, if we would have had one vehicle.
I didn't know how it worked. That's why I asked.
At the county, the sheriff's office, they have take-home vehicles. They get called out from home. They can't call out, come here, get a car and go to Everest. So they have take-home vehicles. Here, if you live here in town, you don't need one. So if you'd like to go out, let's get a car.
How do you determine who does get to take one home?
The only one who was stipulated to have one would be the chief. And beyond that, nobody is stipulated that they have to have one.
I know times have changed, obviously. When I was an officer, we had 4 patrol cars. 4 of them were kept at the PD. Officers doubled up. They shared a vehicle. They were responsible for the vehicle. The chief, of course, had his own vehicle. But to see that it's increased up to 9 cars, if you think about that, you're looking at 9 vehicles, all the maintenance, all the insurance, equipping, with all the cameras and the video and everything that it takes to operate a patrol car. You're looking at a lot of money. And if it's an expense that's not necessary, I mean, there's really nowhere in Hiawatha you can't get to in 2 minutes. I'd like to see the police department narrow down their vehicles. That would really help their budget a lot.
Or we had 9.
Had
Down
9,
it down to 8.
so you
I'm
dropped
working on
one
getting
down.
it down to 7 next year.
Okay,
I'm doing that now. We had 9, we have 8 now.
okay,
So we're already working our way down.
perfect,
No 5 on there.
perfect, yeah.
Mhm.
And number 5, which one?
There's no
No
5 on
5.
there. That's why it's 8
Right,
instead of 9.
gotcha, thank you.
I had to look at that too.
Yeah.
Well, I like the idea of budgeting, doing the levelized budgeting for patrol vehicles. I think that's a good idea to try to keep it the same every year. So I'm okay with that number on there. These, key card entry and so you've got that on there, 3 different places.
Yeah,
I suppose we get the best price if we did all 3 of those at the same time, right?
probably so.
I just like to ask one more time. So the $30,000 budgeted to the CIP, this would be coming out of a tax raise and not shifting from the police budget, correct?
So no, this would not be a tax raise. This is just a change in how we. And so if we look at our capital improvement for 2026, and so if we come to just a general, and this is with everything in there, and so if I know you can't I can only share one screen at a time, but with everything that I have as far as what the police have in there, now keep in mind that I have at least one item in there that I think that we can pay, which is the reimbursement for the engineering. Right now I have only, as far as what our revenue, what our ad tax was last year, 503,191, with all of our revenues and all of our expenditures. Right now we have a $3,716 difference in those two numbers, and that's towards the negative. And so we have $3,716 more dollars in expenditures than we do revenue. Now we'll have a little bit more of that coming back if we agree to use the industrial fund to refund that money to the CIP. And so that would add that $14,000 back in there. And so we would be to the positive. We're not, this would not be a tax raise. This is just a little bit of a difference in how we've been budgeting for these expenses. And so what we've done in the past is when this would come up, we would budget out of just say the 8 fund, which is just a capital expenditure fund, and we would just spend the money out of that fund that year. And so, but it'd be for the full amount. And so it'd be a $60,000 or $58,000 or whatever would have been hit to the budget instead of just funding that CIP and try to prepare for some of these things. And so anytime that we would have budgeted for a vehicle replacement, the old way would have been a tax raise. Any way that we do, it's going to be a tax raise. I would just like to make that tax raise be stable over time. And that way we're not raising taxes one year, then lowering them the next, and then having to raise them back up the next year to replace another vehicle. And so that's kind of the idea of it. But any time that we budget for anything any kind of capital expenditure, it will be a tax raise.
Except for the police cars? Because we already had that money allotted for in that budget? Is that what I'm hearing?
We've never had that money allotted in any, we budget for that money on a yearly basis when we go to, if we're going to budget to replace a police car one year, that's when we would put that money in there. And so we don't have, like say for 2025, we didn't budget anything in capital at all for a police car replacement. We did have a little bit of money transferred to the capital reserve this year for the police but that was just 20,000. We wanted to put that towards public safety, so we chose a police fund for capital reserve. They've used some of that money for building improvements this year, for example. But we do not budget year to year as far as automobiles go for replacement. 2022, we spent $63,509. I should say that was budgeted. Actually, we spent 45,000. In 2024, we spent 21,500 for that, for that replacement. I believe we might have bought a used vehicle at that time. I'm not sure where that number comes from. But we don't budget for that year to year. This is just taking that to the capital reserve fund.
So if I'm hearing you right, the police
No, wait.
department budget, you've got 44,500 transfer to capital, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so you're saying that offsets what you have in the CIP for next year for police?
Yeah, so
Moving the money.
that's just moving that one to the CIP.
Spending it out of the.
It's correct. And so what we can determine is what are we gonna, what's that final number that transfer to capital reserve going to be out of the police department, out of the admin department, out of the Parks and Rec department? And that's gonna help me determine what our property tax looks like.
Okay.
It's how we fund that CIP is a good way to put it.
I guess what I'm saying is I know that we've always bought the cars without doing this. So in a sense, we kind of every year we budget, but we maybe rolled money around from one portion from another to buy a car. So we've gotten by all these years without doing it this way, but I do understand what you're saying. I just like if we've been buying cars all these years, the money's there still. It's just we're adding to CIP is what I'm saying.
How necessary is the key card entry, the Fisher Center?
And this is
Police
So this is something that I would say is more of a luxury than a necessity. It's something that I would like to see because it would, for example, it would allow us to access all the buildings the same way that we access City Hall. It is very, very convenient. It also allows us to see who's going in and out at that time. And so we can see it timestamps when, like, say, if I use my key card, it's going to timestamp when I'm in and out of City Hall. It'd be the same for, like, say, if I went to the Fisher Center after hours, it would at least let us know who was in that building if that was ever a question. And it's not something that is an operational need at this point. It's something that we would like to see in the future. But, and so I would say at this time, that's more of a want than a need, although I still see a purpose for that.
Well, I think we pretty well touched on everything, but with kind of what I'm thinking on it is, I don't know enough about the software for me to say that I want to raise taxes over it this year. I think we need to have more discussion about that. And again, this is the first I've heard of it, so I definitely need to know more about what's going on that. There's honestly nothing that I'm seeing in this that I think that needs to happen this year. The county and the school are both looking at big hikes, and I think that we need to do everything we can to stay low this year and help ease the burden of our taxpayers, because it's I looked at my statement and my house is going up $800 if all this goes through, and that's just my house. So the gym floor, I definitely think that could be resealed for I measured it maybe $10,000 and it would look like new again. The entryway is more of a want versus need, and I just don't feel comfortable spending that much money this year for the accounting. So that's kind of where I'm at on everything.
I would like to point out that I have discussed the administrative software multiple times. in meetings. I've mentioned the difficulties that I have writing reports, the accuracy of these reports. I'm not trying to surprise anybody with any of the information that I'm presenting here tonight.
Well, that's fine, but I don't know enough information. Difficulties is I have difficulties doing everything all the time. So I don't know enough about purchasing the new software. I don't know enough about any of it. Like when people just say, "Oh, I'm having a problem doing something," that doesn't mean we need to spend $100,000 on new software. I just physically don't know enough. If that's my fault, I'm sorry, but I don't feel comfortable this year doing it because we've been getting along for a lot of years, and if we're not getting support, we need to make some phone calls, and we need to find out if they're going to support us moving forward. And if they're not, then hey, next year let's look at it, and maybe next year, it won't. All the entities in town won't be looking at taking a huge increase.
I don't know that I like to have a city. I don't know how to say this. I don't want to have to base what we need to do with our budget based on the fact that the school and the county decides they want to increase their budget higher. So that's not our fault. I don't know why we have to put ourselves third. And I said, I'm not saying we need to pay for everything, but I don't like the idea that we have to be the ones to not continue moving forward because the county decides to go for whatever 28% increase or whatever it was that was on that we got that yesterday, or not yesterday, a couple of days ago. So I do know that even just from being in City Hall and talking to Jane, talking to Brad, talking to Don, that this administrative software has been a headache for years. I don't believe that we can threaten G-Works. I mean, if they are willing to abandon us right now, actually have them on the phone and say we can't spend more time with you, that's just not reasonable. And like I said, there's been a lot of work that's gone in to get this budget and to get our city finances back where it should be. I'd hate to continue to have issues because our software people put money somewhere and they can't figure out how to get it out. That just, I don't know. Like I said, I hate to say that we need to put ourselves third because the school and the county says we want to take this big portion of the pie, and the city, you can just figure out what you get from the scraps. So,
well, I don't think it's putting the city third. I think it's just being mindful that to your residents, and working along with the county and the school is still important. And it's just, it could happen next year, and hopefully I don't have a problem with raising a little bit, but I just don't see anything that we're doing that I feel comfortable spending right now, and that it couldn't wait till next year. Like the software, again, if it's my fault that I don't know enough about it, that's fine. I'm only one person on this board, but I just don't feel comfortable because I don't know enough about it. I don't know anything about the process of going to the other one. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know that you buy it and then you have to pay more every year. If that's my fault, I'm sorry, but I just don't feel comfortable jumping right into this without getting more information.
Brad, I'm not sure what else you need from us. I mean, I
would like to say at least some kind of a consensus on how I am to move forward as far as, do you want me to bring back different scenarios for this next? Because I can do that. I can bring back different scenarios, say, okay, we're funding these projects. As far as Parks and Rec go, how did we feel about LED replacement for ball fields? Is that something that we feel that can be waited on? Same thing with the Lobby room flooring, how do we feel about that? Is that something that we feel can be waited on? What I can do, I can bring back different scenarios, saying if we fund this is what it looks like. We could have many different proposals out there. It's really not hard to do that. And so it doesn't matter to me so much. I just wanted a little bit of clarity as far as, kind of what we're feeling as a commission on what, we could fund in this next year. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for.
And I asked this last meeting, I mean, can we say what we feel comfortable with raising? Again, there's nothing on this list that I feel that can't be dropped this year. So we need to give them a baseline of what we think that we feel comfortable raising.
Isn't there a skid steer in this budget?
There is, but that does not hit the property tax budget at all.
I mean, I'm always one that likes to see as many different scenarios. I mean, a scenario that has everything. Just because I want to see where it's at, and then we start dialing it back from there.
I've already had good feedback tonight as far as what the property tax budget could look like. And so I think that there could well be some changes made. I've already started kind of doing that. And I know you're not everyone's seeing that screen, but I'm kind of typing numbers in as everybody's talking. And so, like I said, I think there's some good ideas being presented tonight as far as how we can fund these things. And like I said, I can bring that back the scenarios. If that's what I can do that.
Do you have a number for everything on it right now?
It was, not right now, I'd have to calculate it out, but if it was right now, it'd be 4 mills, and that's considering that most of one of those mills is out of this commission's control. And so really, yeah, and so it's, we do have that to contend with as well, because that's $30,000 that we're going to have to budget for. And so that's going to take, that's something that we are going to have to contend with.
Well, I'll say right now that I'm comfortable raising the tax as much as the library raised, because I don't think that's fair for us to have to eat it when we had no control over it. So I think that's a really good baseline right there. That that's something that we need to account for.
And that can be changed by resolution.
What do you mean? I'm sorry. Yeah, and if you're talking about their maximum cap, is that what you're talking about, Laura?
Yes, Brian.
Yeah, and I agree. That's definitely something that we need to put on the agenda to make sure that they don't take another mill next year. And to be honest, we could actually put that on the agenda for the next meeting if we need to, because I think that's something that we need to address before it gets too late and it falls through the cracks.
I agree.
I don't think it's quite a mill. It's about 3/4. Am I right, Brad, or is it a full mill?
So it is not a full mill. It's going to be, 3/4 of a mill, a bit more than that. But a mill is going to be right around 37. I got it right in front of me. 36,728. They're asking for right up $30,000. So most of a mill.
Okay. So yeah, with that said, I'm fine raising it with above that. And again, everything else, I feel like it could be moved on to next year, and maybe our other entities will not be in need of funds as much. I know that I don't want to talk about the county's issues and school issues. But yeah, their times are tough, and the school is mandated to raise taxes at a set level as well, and there's nothing they can do about that. So I just think it's a good year for us to help our residents out and do what we can, because the rents are not going to get any better. And every time the property taxes go up, the rents go up. And I'm a rental property owner myself, and I can tell you right now that people have a hard time making the rent.
I just don't have a lot of confidence saying that it'll be better next year. We went revenue neutral last year. Then if we look at doing that a second year, I'm not as optimistic as you are, Brian, that it'll be that much better for the city or for the schools and the county next year as well. So if we don't look at doing something this year, it's always going to be tough.
Well, last year, we stayed revenue neutral because the commission couldn't come to agreements of a reasonable number. And I think this year is what we need to really concentrate on, is as a whole, come up with a number that we feel that's we're all comfortable with and that we feel is fair to the public. And last year, if we did that, we wouldn't maybe be in the situation that we are in this year. So small increments every year are the way to go about it. And that's how you don't get yourself in a position where you have to raise taxes 16, 17%.
I'd like to point out that the budget process last year, and why I've chosen to do this in regular meetings this year, was that I had multiple budget work sessions last year. I believe it was attended by at least some of the people here. Going into that budget work, going into our hearing that we had for our budget, we had come to a consensus that was going to be our budget going forward. We had a commissioner that disagreed with that, and that's fine. That is, totally up to that commissioner's, that's their decision. And I don't disagree with that. But I had, going into that budget hearing, we had plenty of consensus going into that. I hadn't heard anything else up until the day of any kind of that we weren't going to be that we were going to be revenue neutral. And so it wasn't that we couldn't come to a consensus last year. I had that going into the meeting, and we had a commissioner change their mind, and those things happen. But it's not something that was necessarily a failure. We just had somebody change their mind. And so I had to do a little bit of learning before last year. It was a good exercise for me. We did not raise taxes last year, which was good for everybody. But those types of things happen. And so that's why I've chosen to do this in open meetings. That way everybody can see what's going on here. And that way it's easier for the public to get this information. Because I believe that we only had a few people attending our budget work sessions last year. They usually go very long. I understand. It's just better to do it this way.
I agree.
Well, I guess my years on the commission, it's been presented and just kind of pushed through, and that's my opinion of how it goes. And I don't feel like we ever make an effort to make everybody on the commission happy and try to make it so that it's all 5 commissioners are on agreement of something. And I do understand that it only takes 3 votes to push something through, but every one of us are elected to represent the public, and I think we're all doing the best we can to do exactly that. And I think that if we are more mindful on trying to make something so that we all agree on it and it looks better for the city, and I think all of us working together on this, we would have a better product in the end too.
Well, I'd still just like to see the different scenarios that you can bring forward. I mean, you have an idea of, I think from our discussion, if you've been typing things in, and I mean, we can look and go from there.
And of course, we still got plenty of time until that next commission meeting. If anybody has any other ideas in that time, I can also bring that scenario back as well. I mean, like I said, these scenarios won't be hard for me at this point to work up. I mean, it's just really running the final numbers. And so I can run all those different scenarios. And like I said, anybody has any other ideas, more than welcome to. I can make another one. It's really not. It won't be that hard for me to have multiple scenarios at this next meeting.
Well, I'd just like to add, I feel like the point of the CIP is to also, it's a savings account. It's to spread things out over time. And maybe we're approaching it just a little bit more drastic than what we should. If we're funding our CIP program, and we're doing it too drastically all at once. And so if you put, say, 3% into it this year, and then next year you do another 3%, yeah, you might not be able to get your floors done just next year, but you will in 2 or 3 years. And I also understand that in 2 or 3 years, those floors might cost a little bit more, but it's still making steps forward, and we're still getting stuff done, but we might not see the product as fast as we want, but we're still being mindful of our residents. So that's all I have to say for that now.
That's a very good point, and that's also a scenario that can work out, especially with some of those bigger ticket items like the floors at the Fisher Center. I mean, those are scenarios that I can definitely bring back as far as just doing that a little bit more over time, a little less impactful.
Yeah, I would agree. The entryway floors, it would be great to see those look a little nicer, but I would really like to look at resealing the gym floor. It would be a fraction of the cost, and it will look like new when we're done. As far as I believe the other part does have tile. Is that correct, Brad?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so you don't really have much of a choice with that. You're going to have to pull all that up. The floors are going to have to be ground down. So yeah, that area, I think that's something that we should look at. So I'm willing to negotiate. We need to be mindful, and we can move forward, and we can do it a little bit every year.
Okay. I'm going to move on to some of the funds that don't affect the property tax rate. I'll try to spend just a little bit of time. As far as the street department goes, I have the track skid loader for this next year. That's $50,000 coming out of the street department fund for that. I'd like to point out that if I look at that with the street department fund 29, with that 50,000 taken out, just that scenario, that would still leave 76,000, and well, it'd leave more than that. You could add $116,051 that we can actually put towards the streets of Hiawatha out of that fund, and that way that fund breaks even as far as revenues and expenditures go. And so we look pretty good in that street department fund, which is really one of my major goals of this budget was to fix that fund, because we were spending more money in that fund than we were taking in revenue, and it's something that needed to be fixed. The streets are one of our major complaints here in town, and so really fixing that balance, making sure that we have a lot of money to put towards the streets is as much as we can, and really come up with a good idea about how to move forward with the streets too. If what we've been doing in the past isn't working, we need to figure out a different way. I'll let brighter minds than mine on street maintenance make those decisions, or at least help me with those decisions. But I think that we do have some good opportunity there as far as the street fund goes. but at least we do have a good amount of money that we can put towards streets still. See, that was it as far as the street department went. Stormwater, there's a lot of different ways that you could do this. And so I do have the other 50,000 coming out of stormwater for the track skid loader that I had proposed for next year. We have inlet boxes. It really just depends on what we want to do as far as stormwater maintenance goes. I can just budget for the rest of that money. I don't have to necessarily put money towards the CIP for inlet boxes on First Street. That can just be stormwater maintenance. It's a line item within the stormwater fund. Curb and gutter replacement is something that I'd like to really talk about. And that is something that we're going to be talking about. Like, we need to figure out what our worst areas of town are and really start moving forward on what the curb and gutter can be in this town. And, we need to have a plan. As far how are we going to do this? How far can we get in a year? How much money do we want to put towards this? And so these are still some scenarios that I want to, look at, because curb and gutter is a major problem here in town. And so that's just really quick on stormwater and street department. Do I have any questions there?
Brad, do you have an idea of what it costs to do one city block of curb and gutter today?
I don't have it, not off the top of my head, I don't.
Okay.
And so it's really going to be a per foot cost. I could get that figure for you for the next meeting, though. I don't have it off the top of my head at this time.
I know we do $10 a square foot, I believe, is contract rate. So I didn't know if curb costs more. Just I don't know if it costs a little more or not.
It does. Curb costs a little bit more, and then when we do curb, we're also going to also have to fix driveway entrances, and so there's going to be some more costs in there too. But I can calculate that out for you, and I can have that prepared for the next meeting.
Right?
What do they do? Does it don't have curb and gutter?
It's always a decision that needs to be made as far as curb and gutter goes, as far as where we add it, how the drainage system is set up now, if we add it in the future. But that's always a conversation to have.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Times when we don't have curb and gutter, you're going to have at least somewhat of ditches on the sides that are supposed to carry that water down. Now there's work that needs to be done there as well. I mean, drainage work needs to be done all over town. A lot of the ditch work isn't too expensive, but it still needs to be done, making sure that tubes are cleared, things like that.
Yeah.
All right, water.
How you guys doing? Good. On my CIP, I have to fix Evans Well, not Evans, Canals Well. So it's just like Evans Well. It's down on performance. It's low. It's gonna go out soon, and it'll probably be the same cost as $45,000 to fix it. So maybe a little less because we don't have to do the bottle caps maybe twice, hopefully. And then, I mean, that's the second pump, the biggest pumper we have coming to town. So getting that fixed and having it perform well is definitely a need. And then the next is a boring machine. So lead and copper, we have a bunch of lead lines, and a lot of them, we might have to go across the street and go that way. You need a boring machine. If you have a boring machine, you're going to have to rip up the streets, could possibly rip them up, cause more damage to the streets, to the city streets. And with that, in March, I talked to a company, and they said roughly the boring machine that we would be looking at is about $12,600. So for those two items, and with the lead and copper, it's also mandated that we take out all the lead lines in town and do it within a matter of time. So
About 9 years is what we have on that one.
You said 9 years?
9 years to get all the lead lines out of the ground, yes.
and that's all I have for my CIP for next year. So, but those are the two that I definitely need. I don't think we could wait on both of those.
So have we started to take out some of the lead lines yet, or is that still?
So we have, and so usually when we come across them, we'll take those out. then we really need to build a dedicated program to where we're looking at these lead lines, really getting into where we identify every lead line that we have, which is why we bought the vac trailer, although it has proven to have many different purposes than just looking for lead lines. But that was the main reason why we bought that vac trailer, was to pothole down so we could see where those lead lines were. The boring machine that we're talking about isn't what you would traditionally see. You know, you see a lot of boring crews in town. Those machines, if they use, are very expensive. Those are, you know, $250,000 or more. And with those come a lot of liability and things like that. The kind of boring machine that we're talking about sits more down in the trench. You still can directional bore with it. It's meant to go about, what's the maximum, 60 feet?
120.
120 feet is a maximum. Really, you know, most of our streets in town are going to be between, you know, right around 40 feet is pretty common. The current method that we have is what we call the hole log. And it's just pneumatic. You set it in a direction and you just hope for the best. I mean, I would just say that it's, you know, more scientific than that, but I've had these things come up in the middle of the street before. You know, it starts thumping its way through the middle of the road. I've heard horror stories. Luckily, we've had pretty good luck, but it's very, you know, in order for us to make a hole across the streets, we could probably do maybe 2 or 3 of those a day. And if we really get serious about replacing these lead lines, we're going to need to be replacing many more of those. I just don't see how that what we currently have is feasible for that. And so it's not going to be the boring machines that you traditionally see, but it's going to be something sort of similar that's just a smaller version of it.
Okay. We've been talking about those lead lines for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's not going away, so.
Yep. Well, hopefully soon we'll start.
Is that lead line on Cheyenne and First? It's leaking?
I don't believe so. I think that should be some kind of poly. I'm hoping that comes off of the cast iron line, which I believe it does. It could be the hydrant as well. I mean, we have a couple of different scenarios though, but I would doubt that it's a lead line. Usually you're going to find a lot of your lead between Iowa and Miami 1st to 12. There's a couple of other areas in town where you might run into some lead, but it's really uncommon in those. Anything after really 1950, if it was developed after 1950, you're not going to run into lead lines. They started using different materials at that point. And so a lot of that area was developed in the 50s, I believe. And so we don't run into lead lines in that area very often. You know, once in a while you get surprised, but you know, it's really uncommon in that area. A lot of polyethylene line in that area.
Thank you, Ryan.
And so as far as the funding for the water department goes, with everything that he's proposed, I do have it in there to where the water fund does break even. We have as much in revenue as we do in expenditure going out. And so it looks pretty good as far as what he's proposing goes. Bruce, you're up next.
Won't beat me up too bad. I got beat up a softball this weekend.
Yeah, but who won? Who won the game?
I didn't.
I did mine a little different. I didn't do it by the years. I just did it by like 1, 2, 3 priorities. So, number one, I'd like to look into getting another truck, 4-door, 3/4 ton. And ours has, 100,000 miles on it. It's hard miles, and it's hard on the front ends. But I mean, I don't think you can get rid of it, but keep it in the fleet and maybe use it for plowing all the time. Number 2 would be a maintenance program for the pumps. Brad kind of looked at that a little bit. I gave you guys some background stuff. I'll just go ahead and read it. We have lift station locations throughout the town, including the main sewer pump. Each lift station has at least 2 pumps minimum.
Not even counting all of those mechanical operating equipment such as the grid system, unders, mechanical screen, power drives, generators, etc. All these motors are on 24 hours a day. They run as needed. For example, the North Headworks has a total of 5 pumps. It includes 2 35 horsepower wet weather pumps and 3 50 horsepower dry weather pumps. The South Headworks includes 3 20 horsepower pumps. So therefore, the 9 lift stations, a total of 16 pumps. We have only 4 of them above ground. So in other words, what I'm getting at is there's 12 of them that's been submerged in wastewater for, I mean, who knows? I guess from day one. And I mean, I guess a maintenance program would be good just to pull them up every so often. And ran some numbers because we were looking for pumps. Let's say if we were to buy new pumps for just the North plant, a 350 horsepower pumps would be about 126,000 plus your 235 horse wet weather pumps would be another 60. So possibly $180,000 worth of pumps just at the North plant, not including the South plant or whatever. I just propose maybe 25 to 50,000 for a maintenance program a year. I don't know.
You looked into it?
We got one quote back, but it was 75, and I think that included water pumps or no. I don't know.
Something else, I believe that maintenance program was far more in depth than what
We were looking
looking for or what was actually probably needed. This is like, they would come out every month.
Yeah, I mean,
And I'm not sure that we need any.
maybe at least once or 2 years. I mean, you
Once a year is what we do with the water system now. So we spend about $5,000 a year at the water system on a maintenance program.
You have many locations that use the same pump as some other location that if you bought one spare that would fit places or not.
Well, the South plant are 20 horsepower. The one at the North plant, they're 350 horse and 235 horse. So
They're all different.
Yeah. And then like Henry and Taco Bell's, those are like 5 horse. So some of the smaller ones.
Yeah.
So, number 3 would probably be the belt press parts. It runs all the time. It takes stuff from the wasting, which we take to the landfill. It has conveyor belts, rollers, and they're aged, and you get them from home. They could be cheaper than buying a whole new belt press. Just keep it going and maintain it. I'd say probably 10 to 15,000 for all the parts for that. Number 4 probably the country club basin. Since we sell effluent water to the golf course, they use out of that basin. And then once we have a heavy rainfall, it's called short circuiting. So it processes through the plant faster and there's more solids that go into it. And once the solids go into the basin, they settle and the rest of the water goes out, and then you get accumulation. Maybe every 2 to 3 years instead of waiting until like 5 or 6, and it cut down on cost.
I think you talked about that one time.
Yeah, because we had a company come and do it, and they underbidded themselves. So so it'd be better to stay on top of it until. And number 5 would be Clucky's lift station. This is kind of a wish, but later on down the line or something, but it probably needs to be done. Sometime soon. Clucky's lift station, I just looked it up a little bit because we got some books out there. Clucky's lift station was used in 1990s, even though it was purchased in 1990s, doesn't change the fact it was originally built in 1977.
This lift station is a concern due to private property next to a creek, leads to a pond. This lift station is a Smith & Wesson, it's a vacuum prime. I don't know if you know much about them, but if you get any air leak in there, you got problems. This lift station causes piles, overflows, and which that leads to the creeks and stuff. It's cost many overtime hours, people going out 2, 3 in the morning because it's got problems. I'd like to look to an updated Smith & Wesson, the pump station, and they would be above ground, not submerged, so that would help out a lot, easier to work on, cost down, less maintenance, you don't have to pull them up. And I propose about 140 to 160, so that's on my wish list, so. But other than that, that's about all I got. Well, I mean, I got a lot of actuator valves, but
The Aeromod upgrade.
Aeromod upgrade, but that's got on my wish list too. What that is air driven, it'd be electric valves, like in a heavy rainflow, for example, at 2 in the morning, you get 2-3 inches of rain, it causes the plant short circuit because all the rain flow. And what this would do is you could have a slide gate come up and you could divert it to half of the plant so you're not washing out all the biological process of the main plant. But I mean, and in the winter time, it'd help out because we got air dryers out there and moisture gets in there and they freeze up and it throws off the system because they're not opening and closing like they should be. Well, and I don't have a price for that. That's a wish list.
It's something that, I think that we've had multiple meetings out there that even I've been a part of. It's something that's definitely needed for the longevity of our system. I know as far as the short circuiting goes, that's what our current projects are also being designed to help with, really impound that water. Let us get that water back in more slowly. And really that will alleviate a lot of the problems that we have at the Country Club Basin. Because what's happening is the solids wash into that basin, settle out, and that's why we have to get out of there. You're always going to at least have some problems with that. There's always going to be some suspended solids in that wastewater. But the Clappy lift station, I know, also is in desperate need of attention. This is probably our #1 lift station that we have problems with, I would say, throughout the year. But these are things that we can look at. We don't have these numbers set in stone yet. And so these are things that, like you said, these are kind of those place marker type numbers that we're working towards to see what's really needed. Technology always advances. Luckily, when it advances, lots of times it gets cheaper. I know some of the Aeromod stuff, some of the Smith & Wesson things that are coming out now. I believe Dominic and Bruce just had a meeting with them, and it's different. So the vacuum prime is a little bit different than what we're used to. I think that's a fair statement.
Yes.
And so, we might be looking at something a little more economical than what we're thinking too. It could be even higher. We just don't know. It's going to require more work on our part. But as far as the rest of it goes, Country Club Basin definitely needs to be done. I have the belt press maintenance in there, and we can definitely look at that F-250. That's going to be part of that vehicle replacement program that I want to get going with Public Works in general, in the city in general.
I'm asking for a 3/4 tank because we do pull the sewer jet, and that's 700 gallons times 8.34.
Yeah,
so that's a lot.
It's definitely needed with that sewer jet. I mean, you're correct.
Yeah,
that's the reason.
I mean, it's a struggle
that way.
But I mean, it's a good. You could plow snow with it, or someone keep it in the fleet, pull a trailer with it, or lawnmower or something. I mean, it's not out of commission, but that's all I got. Any questions?
We need to have any money in hand to restart the second sewer project. Is that all gonna be with bond money and whatnot to we need to have any money in our pocket to start that project?
Yeah, I don't believe that we do. I think that's gotta be some CDBG money to get that project started.
Okay.
I believe that this is also going to be financed very similarly to the way that the last project was started up. And so I don't believe that we need to have any money in hand in order to start that project.
So how does this look with regard to our fees that we charge for wastewater? Is it? Can we?
And so what I would like to see is what kind of an effect that we're going to be, the new water meters are gonna have, the revenues coming in. And so that's gonna greatly affect, that's why I haven't, mentioned anything about, the longevity of our water sewer rates. I know if we had another project in, we're gonna be looking at probably about another $65,000 payment, 2-3 years down the line. And so we'll have to deal with that at that time. But we're looking at, I really want to see the effect of these water meters, how much more revenue we're gonna capture here before I really have an idea about what kind of, water rates are going to look like going forward.
Okay.
I just need about half a year's worth of good data, and then I can really kind of judge, how much more revenue we're getting and what we can expect. Okay, I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That kind of concludes our capital improvement discussion for tonight. I believe I have some good direction as far as what I need to bring back for the next meeting. I'm going to bring back, many different scenarios, and we can have a good discussion at that time. Really kind of figure out what we want our budget looking like going into that September 8th meeting. And so I'll make sure that I have everything that we've discussed tonight included in there, and bring back, like I said, many different scenarios, and then we can have a good discussion then.
Okay.
That kind of concludes my presentation about the budget tonight. Thank you for bearing with me on that. We can get back to the meeting if you would like.
Okay. Well, once again, Brad, thanks for all the work that goes into that. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. It's a lot of numbers.
It is a lot.
Okay, moving on to communications. So, you haven't talked enough. Is there anything you wanted to add under communications or anything that needs to be
Yes.
detailed?
And so the budget time is just something I'd like to point out. The following dates apply only when we're exceeding R&R. And so we have to hold our audit again between August 20th and September 20th. But we have to make sure that we have a number that we can post in the paper at least 10 days in advance of that. And so we need to be able to really, at this next meeting, we're going to have to be able to come to a consensus on what we want that number to look like if we're going to exceed that R&R. If we're not going to exceed R&R, that's not such an issue for us. But if we're going to exceed that R&R, we need to come to a consensus at this next meeting on what we want that budget to look like, what we're comfortable with, moving into that September 8th meeting. That way we can get that number published to the paper and give the proper advance notice.
Right. You just said September
Sorry,
28th.
on the 25th of August, we need to have that.
Sorry, still July. The 25th of August.
Yeah, so I haven't changed the calendar, so I need to change that, but we do need to come to a consensus at the 25th meeting in August. That way we can publish properly for that R&R hearing on the 8th of September.
Because I can submit it, I have to submit it to the paper by noon the 29th in order for it to be published. Now they're not publishing on Friday, they're publishing on Thursday now. So the 25th,
Thank you.
I will submit it for publication on the 20th that night, so it'll be the 26th for publication on the 28th, which will allow us 10 days prior to the meeting.
All right. Anything else on there?
Not at this time. We do have a request for rural water district number 2. This is kind of, we have talked, I've been in discussion with them about ways that we can move forward with our relationship. At this point, their communication is on there. When you have a chance, please read that and give me kind of some of your thoughts on that, and we can move forward from there. But other than that, I have nothing further under communication.
Any questions from the commissioners?
I think they've got a reasonable request.
I don't think it's unreasonable either.
All right, moving on to governing body comments. I guess all I want to point out to everybody in Hiawatha that school is starting this week. There'll be a soft start on Wednesday with some of the grade levels, and then Thursday, everybody will be there. So that means good old school zones and being aware of kids on bikes and walking and all that fun stuff. We'll start the school year again. So Dave, do you have anything?
I don't have anything.
Tom?
Yeah, I do. So I was put in this position by obviously people of the city, and they trusted me to have their voice. And I want to say that I do not want to see the taxes go up. I'd like to stay close to neutral as possible. I understand we need improvements. We have wants and needs, and let's work on the needs, not the wants. That's really all I got.
Okay. Brian?
Brad, do you have any type of update with school starting on the streetlight?
I do. So the stoplight, we did get the final plans from our engineers this last week. I think that we've had some commissioners that have been unsuccessful being able to access that. Unfortunately, the file size is very large on the final plans. And so what's happened is the office check, which is all the KDOT comments, have been addressed by by our engineers. So they have submitted those final plans for approval. There's no reason for me to think that process won't move forward in a timely manner. I feel like we're moving forward now that we have those final plans. We're able to see what this project's going to look like. But the project is moving forward.
Good news. Thanks, Brad.
Laura?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we will be going on to an executive session. I'd like to make a motion that the city commission recess into executive session in the conference room for a period of
10 minutes.
10 minutes to discuss matters regarding the issue of potential city personnel. The justification for closing the meeting is to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel. The open meeting will resume at 8:11 or 8:12 in the commission chambers, and to include the commission, the city administrator, and is that it?
That's all.
Okay.
Second.
Move to second. Any further discussion? Don?
All in favor?
Aye. Motion passed 5-0. I'd like to make a motion that at 8:15, the city commission is called back into open meeting. Commission took no binding action during executive session.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Not, Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Somebody's got to say. Silence. Moved and seconded to adjourn. Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, commissioners. Do a lot of good work.